What up, long haulers? It's Lumi, and I'm excited to talk about Artifact. Artifact 2.0, it's coming! We don't know when it's coming, but we do know that they're working on it, and they've been really good in terms of posting their ideas and thoughts about what they're working on and why they're working on it. So every Monday, they've post development blogs, and this one today I'm going to talk about is the deployment that focus on the deployment phase as well as the flop. I assume that you guys actually have read the blog post, but if you haven't, I'll give a brief example of what the new flop phase is going to be. So if you play old Artifact, the flop was very RNG based, right? You get to choose your first 3 heroes in your lineup, but you don't get to choose what lane they land into, and you don't get to choose whether they land in front of their heroes or not. So you can have turns where you begin the game and you're like, oh, all my heroes are just going to die to their really, really strong red heroes, for example. And that has happened in Artifact in the past. And for newer players, that's a really bad feeling when you lose your heroes like that. Well, now, with a new deployment, the RNG is significantly lessened, and you get to have a lot of choices in terms of where your hero goes. So the flop is now done in 3 steps, as pictured here. This is the mid lane, and you get to choose one of your 3 heroes to go into the mid lane. Now, you don't know what hero they will put, but they also don't know what hero you'll put. So you'll blindly put it there, and they could still technically match up against each other. This is where some of the old RNG is still here. But, for example, if you really care about making your hero survive, maybe you could put your 2/7 hero on the mid lane and making sure that Treant won't die because he has a big butt. So after you deploy the mid lane, you now deploy the side lane. So you deploy your far right lane, and they will also deploy their far right lane, or left for you in this case. So if you scroll down a bit, you can see the example here. You deploy your Wraith King here, and they will deploy your Bristleback there. And then after you deploy your side lanes, you can see here, now you have to deploy a hero on the left, and they have to deploy a hero on the right. And the interesting thing is, you now have a choice. You could put your hero in front of the Bristleback if you want to. They could put a hero in front of the Wraith King, or they could just avoid deploying in front of the hero. This is really, really interesting. And particularly, it really makes you think about which 3 heroes you want to put in your starting lineup. It really makes you think like what hero you want in the first lane, what hero in the last lane. For example, the example they gave here is deploying the Bristleback, deploying the Bounty Hunter in front of the Bristleback. So this is a good time to look at what the new Bounty Hunter does. Deploy. Track Bounty Hunter's target if it's a hero. Track units have +5 bounty. Bounty Hunter deals +3 damage while attacking tracked heroes. So putting a Bounty Hunter in front of the Bristleback means that they will trade with each other. And that's good for you because you get 5 extra gold out of it. So with this new deployment rule, where you get to guarantee to put one of your heroes in front of theirs, it's a pretty big deal, especially for the different colors of Artifact. Old Artifact, you had really, really big, beefy red heroes. Seems like they're not as beefy anymore. In old Artifact, you had a black strategy where it was really focused on hero killing and making a ton of bounty gold and using that gold to generate some very strong items. Now, we don't know whether that strategy is still going to be around, but if it is around, the ability to guarantee a turn 1 kill, it's a pretty big deal for these kind of decks. So I don't know if that's a broken thing, being able to, right now, Bounty Hunter kills literally every single hero that I've seen, except 2. Wraith King doesn't die to it because he has Reincarnation, and the hero that we got released today, Keith the Bull, doesn't die to it because he's got a 3/8 health. But it's going to be very interesting for me keeping an eye out on the new heroes that are released and seeing how many heroes actually survive Bounty Hunter. Because just looking at the cards that we have so far, it seems like this is a pretty nice way to get out of the gate and swinging and get some new gold. So that's pretty interesting. Also, with the development blog, they mentioned that there are now 3 creeps in every lane, or 3 creeps, 1 in every lane rather. The old one where you have 2 creeps, and they will randomly go into the 2 out of the 3 lanes. And, that was a lot of RNG. It's like there's some times where people can't get lethal because they would just spawn randomly in the lane that you needed lethal in, which was really annoying. But now you know exactly where they will spawn. They will always go on the left side, the leftmost side of the lane. I imagine if you have a hero here for some reason, then the creep will go into like the next spot, right? That would just make sense. So you now know the creep locations. Also, the other big thing is that, as you can see here, the board are size 5. And this is, we know this for sure. The board still has 3 lanes, but each lane has exactly 5 slots. This is pretty big for a lot of in-game things and out-of-the-game things. So for in-game things, blue and green were colors that cared about board sizes because they either wanted to go really wide. Blue in particular, right? They play things like Dimensional Portal, summon 3 melee creeps. Or they have heroes such as Kana and Prelix, which you wanted to go really, really, really wide. I'm talking about 15 to 20 slots wide. 5 slots means for those heroes, they will need some changes. Also, melee creeps are a lot weaker now, so for the Blue Swarm deck, I'm not sure how that deck's going to look in Artifact 2.0. Also, for green decks was generally about, not crazy about going wide, but they also kind of went wide because they were very good at keeping the creeps alive. And eventually the creep strategy went pretty wide, and that was really tough for red and black decks to deal with. But now it seems like the limited board size really helps the red and black. Assuming everything stays the same, which we know it's not the case, right? Like, obviously, we know Bristleback, is now no longer the 812 Bristleback. So, everything is looking a lot different. But this is kind of the in-game stuff that I thought about. The out-of-this-game stuff, if there is 3 lanes of size 5, I'm pretty sure you could fit this whole board in one monitor screen. You don't have to, like, use the left-right arrow to jump into different lanes to look at things. Like I'm playing the first lane, but I have to jump to the right lane to look at what's going on. Now probably you could see everything in one lane, or one screen rather, and that's going to be a lot easier to play, especially for the newer players. This also means it's going to be a lot easier to watch. For streamers, for tournament broadcasts, I remember broadcasting Artifact, and sometimes you would have viewers jumping in and be like, what the hell is going on in this game? And it's hard to see because you could be talking about the action on middle lane, and the screen is not even in the middle lane. But there's something very important that you need to talk about in the middle lane. If everything's on one screen and you can see it all, it just makes it a lot easier to play, to watch, to stream. So that's good. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about in this blog post is they talked about 3 or 4 rather additional placement rules, and these are pretty big deal. So the first thing says deploying a hero on top of another hero will bounce the old hero to deploy next turn. This is huge. In old Artifact, making sure your heroes were at the right lane at the right time was huge. There was a lot of fights about initiative to just like kill the enemy hero to make sure that the hero is like not in the right lane, or you would use cards that will push a hero into a different lane to push them away. Now it gives you a lot more option to control where your heroes are. Now, this is particularly important in 2 scenarios. Scenario 1 is where you play decks that relies on a particular color, but you only have one of those colors. This is commonly in draft, where you make decks are 2-2-1, where you have like 2 red heroes, 2 green heroes, and you have only 1 blue hero to cast, like, I don't know, Annihilation, right? Well, if your blue hero is in the first lane, but you really need your blue hero in the last lane, well, now you get to deploy your hero on one of your, let's say, red hero on top of blue hero, get the blue hero back, and the next turn you get to, move your blue hero on the last lane if you need them there. So it seems like the new Artifact gives you a ton of options to move your heroes around. Just with the heroes that they posted in this particular blog, you can see that Mirana has the ability to leap. Timbersaw has a ability to Timber Chain, and both of these abilities allow them to traverse different lanes. So it seems like moving across lanes is going to be a lot easier in the new Artifact, which also makes the game a lot easier for the new players to play and a lot less punishing. Because one of the very easy ways to win against less experienced player in the old Artifact was to like just kind of strand one of the heroes in a pointless lane, and then you just get a free win. So that's really nice. Deploying a hero on top of a creep will destroy the creep. So this is, if we go back to, let's say, this particular example here. If you want to deploy your bounty hunter here, you will essentially eat that creep, and now your bounty hunter will be facing a melee creep. And this is particularly important because after your bounty hunter kills a melee creep, keep in mind that creeps always go into the leftmost position in the next turn, right? So next turn, another melee creep will be replaced there. This is pretty interesting for a couple of different scenarios. You might be asking, why do you want to put your hero in front of the creeps? Like, isn't that bad? You want to hit their tower, right? Well, in two cases, you don't, right? If you have a really, really squishy blue hero that you want to keep alive, well, putting your Crystal Maiden in front of a 1/1 means your Crystal Maiden is going to live for quite a bit, right? So, especially if you have someone to regen or someone to give him armor, your Crystal Maiden will live forever. So being able to really control where your hero goes in a lane, especially in front of their melee creep, that's pretty interesting. Also, don't forget that there is a mechanic called Siege. If I can spell. Yeah, there's a mechanic called Siege in this game where if there's something blocking you, you get to go over the unit and then hit their tower. They've changed the Siege mechanic where regardless whether your hero's blocked, you'll still hit their tower anyways. But I'm sure there are a mechanic where it matters whether there's a unit in front of you or it doesn't have a unit in front of you. For example, I don't know, if they have Primal Roar again for Beastmaster, certain cases you like the ability to guarantee having a unit in front of you is quite key. So being able to deploy your hero on the far left and guarantee that there's always a creep in front of you is a very interesting thing to think about. Okay. When you play a creep card, you could choose the exact slot in the lane that you deploy into. This was, I guess this is not that big. It's pretty self-explanatory. This is the one I want to talk a little bit about because I'm not sure what this exactly means. Playing a creep on top of a unit will destroy that unit. Well, this is pretty obvious, right? If you want to play a creep in front of on top of your own creep, well, you'll destroy that creep. Just like playing a hero on top of this creep, you'll destroy this creep. Like, that makes sense. What I want to know is whether you could kill your own hero this way. If I want to get my Treant Protector out of this lane, and I don't have another hero to go into this lane to replace him, can I play a creep on top of my Treant Protector and kill my Treant? Now, that sounds bad. Like, why do you ever want to kill your hero? Well, what if I don't need a Treant there anymore, right? What if I already taken the tower, and I really need Treant to go somewhere else? Well, if I could guarantee a way to kill my own Treant by playing a creep on top of that, you know, in some cases you do want to do that. So it doesn't say here whether it's just replacing a different creep, but it says playing a creep on top of a unit will destroy that unit. Unit includes heroes. So I guess we don't know. That's a fun thing about reading these blogs. You have a lot of answers, but you also have a lot more questions about it. And that's kind of all I have for you guys for the first development blog. There's a lot, and I'm really looking forward to the new changes that they're making. Seems like they are really caring about feedback. So if you guys don't really like some of the changes they're making, well, feel free to send them an email. Or if you do really like the changes, well, let them know as well. Let me know also what you think about this video I've made. You can notice that this particular post came out 2 or 3 weeks ago, 15 days exactly. When this blog first came out, I was like, oh, I'm going to make a video talking about it. But then I decided to let it ruminate a bit, and let me think about what these changes actually mean. I actually, did a little preparation about this blog, and talking about what these changes mean down the line, instead of just like doing a first impression, because I feel like you guys could get a deeper dive if I think a little bit more about it as well. So let me know what you guys think about these type of videos, whether you're interested to see more. If you are, the next week, then I'm gonna just do the development post on April 20th. But yeah, let me know. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and This is Lumi. I'm out.